Hi guys, Ms. Rodojani here. I bet you thought you were going to get away with not having a class today, but surprise! I prepared this lesson about cells and the cell parts. Now you should have probably, for homework you had on Friday, to copy down the parts, the cell parts and the cell functions for the animal and plant cells. So hopefully you've done that. If you've done that, then you could just go back and forth as I go over the labeling of both the cells. And if you haven't done it, then it'll probably be a good idea for you to write down the functions, the parts and the function as we go along. Now, in the first 10 minutes of class, the substitute probably asked you to just draw the plant and animal cells. So hopefully you've already done that. And if you have, hopefully it's big enough so that we can label it together. It's a nice idea to draw it yourself, because drawing the cells yourself helps you really get to know the cell and where the parts are and what they really look like. So again, hopefully this will help you. We will go over it again in class, and please don't forget that you'll have a microscope quiz on Friday. So even though I won't see you Wednesday because of field day, you will have the microscope quiz on Friday, and it's all the parts and the functions as we went over them in class. So let's start with the plant cell. This is a plant cell, and remember we said a plant cell is more rectangular. Okay, so here, this is the plant cell. Now, sorry if my writing's a little messy. I'm just getting you. This is a new program. Remember, in the winter we used a program called EduCreations. This is another one that I've been experimenting with. So I'm just learning how to write with it. So plant cell is usually, most of the time, it's usually rectangular, and you can see just by looking at this particular picture. And there's a lot of different pictures of plant cells that you're going to see out there. The one in your book is a little bit different, but nonetheless, the parts are pretty much the same. Okay, now we'll start with the parts that are mostly for the plant cell. Not mostly for the cell, but mostly that they're only found in the plant cell. And the first one is the cell wall. So it's this one here that we're talking about, the cell wall. Now the cell wall is a really thick structure, and you can see it. It's actually right here. So it's the outside of the cell. And as I've written here, the cell wall is made of really tough material. It allows water and oxygen to go through, and later on in the next couple of weeks we're going to learn about photosynthesis. It protects the cell, it supports the cell, and it's found only in plant cells. So the cell wall that you see here is found only in plant cells. Let me draw it again here. So this is the cell wall. Now next, we're going to look at chloroplasts. And again, chloroplast is something only found in the plant cell, and it's these structures right here. And the chloroplasts contain something called chlorophyll. And let me just write here, chloroplasts, even though they're right at the bottom. So the chloroplasts contain a chemical called chlorophyll, which helps in photosynthesis. And you can see that the function of the chloroplast is to capture energy from the sunlight and to use it to produce food for the cell. And again, we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks when we talk about photosynthesis. But these are the structures that use the sunlight, the energy from the sunlight, and they create energy for the food for the cell to live. What I'll do now is I'll just label the parts of the plant cell and then that are similar to the animal cell, and then we'll go through all the functions. Okay, so I'll just label the parts that you're responsible for. Now, this purple structure right here is called the nucleus. Okay, and the one inside is called the nucleolus. I'll just write it underneath here. As we go ahead, something that I probably should have mentioned before is that in the plant cell we have something called the cell wall, like we said. Now, and that's the outside, that thicker outside. Now the inside part, and if I want to be precise there, this is called the plasma membrane. And an animal cell also has a plasma membrane. But an animal cell does not have a cell wall, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, and I should probably do this so that in case you're still copying it, this structure right here is called the endoplasmic reticulum. What I'll do is I'll just write ER, okay, and hopefully you'll remember that that's the endoplasmic reticulum. And you'll notice the little structures, there's these little dots on the endoplasmic reticulum. Those are called ribosomes. Now the ribosomes are also found free in the cytoplasm, and we're going to talk about their function in a little bit. Okay, so ribosomes can be stuck on the endoplasmic reticulum, or they can be free in the cytoplasm. And speaking of cytoplasm, the cytoplasm is all this stuff in between. Okay, two more structures that I want to talk about. I'm running out of space here. Hopefully you're not. This huge structure here that kind of looks like, I don't know, a big pool of water. It's called a vacuole. Okay, and these orange structures here, they're here, it's here, and here. That's called the mitochondria. Actually, mitochondrion is the singular. Mitochondria is plural, so lots of mitochondria, one mitochondrion. Okay, I think I've covered all the structures for the plant cell. It kind of looks messy now that I look at it, so sorry about that. So again, this purple structure here, the nucleus, the smaller structure inside the circular one is nucleolus. Okay, then we have the endoplasmic reticulum that's kind of stuck to the nucleus. Okay, ER, I called it ER, but it's endoplasmic reticulum. The ribosomes are those little dots that are found on the endoplasmic reticulum and free in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is everything inside the cell, basically, that makes it keep its shape. Mitochondria are these little orange, they're represented by an orange color here. So chloroplasts, we already talked about the green structures, and they actually are green. A vacuole is this big kind of pool of water, it looks like. Okay, and the cell membrane is the inside membrane of the cell. The cell wall is the outside thicker part of the cell wall, only in a plant cell. Okay, so let's move ahead to the animal cell. Now, this video will be on Moodle. I still want you to take notes now, so I'll be expecting you to take notes now. But the video will be on Moodle in case you want to review something. Or the substitute, you may ask the substitute to pause or go back just for a little bit, not too long, and if you want to review anything. Okay? So let's just look at we talked about the parts, let's look at the functions for a second. So cell membrane, like I said, found in both structures. It basically controls things that go in and out of a cell. It's like a security guard, let's say, at a gate, at our front gate. Okay, so controls any chemicals or substances that goes in or out. So it takes in the stuff that it needs, it throws out the stuff it doesn't. The nucleus, really important, it's kind of the brain of the cell. Okay, so it basically controls everything that happens in the cell, and it's like the boss of the cell. So it tells everybody what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Now I'm going through these really quick because technically you should have these already done from homework. You should have had this done for homework. So I'm kind of going through it quickly. If you didn't, then you just need to try to copy as fast as possible. The nuclear envelope, which I didn't really label, but it's basically the membrane outside the nucleus. So if I go to the picture of the animal cell, okay, this is our nucleus. Okay, the nuclear membrane is just the membrane on the outside that protects it. Okay, so that's nuclear envelope or nuclear membrane. Chromatin I wanted to mention it. We're not really going to study it. You're actually going to study it more next year, but it basically contains the genetic information of the cell or the organism. So it contains the DNA basically. Okay, the nucleolus is really important. Now, if I go back, the nucleolus would be this smaller structure here in the animal cell. And if we looked at the plant cell, it was this one right here. Okay, that's the nucleolus. And basically, the nucleolus is responsible, it's where the ribosomes are made. And you don't know this now, but ribosomes are really important to make proteins. So let's continue a little bit. Cytoplasm is like a gel, and it makes up everything inside the cell, and it contains all the what we call organelles. Like, I probably should have mentioned this before, but organelles are all the parts of the cell. Okay? All the parts of the cell are called organelles. So just like our bodies, all our organs, all the parts of our body are called organs, while all the parts of a cell are called organelles. The mitochondria, we're right here now. The mitochondria we call the powerhouse of the cell, powerhouse. So it's basically where all our energy is made. So it takes, what it does is it takes the energy from the food that we eat. So can you imagine this really tiny organelle takes the energy from our food, now whether it's protein or carbohydrate or lipids, and we're going to talk about those. It takes that energy and it converts it into an energy that the cell can use. So, okay, and again, we're going to do digestive system probably after Easter break, so this is you're going to understand all this much better. Okay, so mitochondria, and if we go to the animal cell, okay, it's these structures right here. Now, don't get confused with colors. You have to remember that these are not the actual colors of the organelles. These are just the colors that they use to help you distinguish between one organelle and the other. Okay, so you can see that it looks the same as in the plant cell. Okay, going back, so we have endoplasmic reticulum. So it's basically a passageway. Think of it like, I don't know, a highway, okay, that carries proteins and other things from one part of the cell to another. And you can tell from here, do you see how it's kind of found all over the place? Okay, this is the ER, we'll call it ER. And like I said, it transports things all over the cell, and especially it can transport things from the nucleus to other parts of the cell. Okay, so that's endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosomes, we kind of talked about. Okay, and like I said, some are found on the endoplasmic reticulum and others float around in the cytoplasm. Okay, and the ribosomes are really important to make proteins. So if we look at the animal cell, the ribosomes are these little circles here all over the place. Okay, and some of them you can see are found on the endoplasmic reticulum, and some of them are free all over the place, all over the cytoplasm. So these are ribosomes. Okay, going back, I know I'm going back and forth, it's probably annoying, and you're probably complaining. Stavro, I can just hear you complaining right now, but you got to live with it. So Golgi bodies. So Golgi body is right here, and I actually forgot to mention it in the plant cell. So what the Golgi body does is they receive materials, they package it, and they basically deliver it to different parts of the cell, whoever needs it. I don't know, you want to think of it like a post office or like some sort of factory. So you imagine them, they receive things, so they could receive maybe proteins or maybe some other chemical that's needed in the cell. They receive it, they package it, they put a nice little bow on it, and they deliver it to whoever needs it. Okay, these are the Golgi bodies, and if we go to label it, It's this right here. And if you notice, they kind of look like, I don't know, like pita bread. Okay? And they're called Golgi bodies. To me, they look like little pita breads all stacked up. And if we go to the plant cell, you'll notice they look exactly the same. They're just a different color. Okay, it's this here, Golgi bodies. I'll just call it GB, Golgi bodies. So going back now, vacuoles, right here, is basically, it's places where things are stored. Think of it like a patari, like a storage room, a closet, okay? They store various things that the cell may need later. Now, even though plant cells, you can see they have huge ones, and we saw them before. I called them like pools of water. Animal cells have them too, but they're not as big, okay? And some animal cells may not have them at all. So this is vacuoles. Okay. And last but not least is lysosomes. And basically, lysosomes are kind of like, I don't know if you've heard of the term garbage disposals in English. You know how some sinks have this particular function where you can throw food in it and it crunches it up? It's the same thing. So if lysosomes kind of break down things that the cell doesn't need anymore, and they get rid of it, they export it out of the cell. Now, lysosomes, and in this diagram, they don't seem to have them, but they actually look like vacuoles. Okay, so we'll add lysosomes here. I'll add the word lysosomes, and you can have a look at this animal cell in your textbook to see what they look like. So those are basically the parts that you are responsible for. There are a lot of other things in the animal cell that we're really not going to cover. This is what you need for now. It's just the basics. It's going to help you out for next year, and it's definitely going to help you out for probably after Easter break when we talk about, we're going to talk about digestion and respiration and the heart and so on, and oxygen and carbon dioxide, and that's where it's going to help you. Okay, so even though there's a couple things that are similar between plant and animal cell, there's also a lot of differences. And another thing I forgot to mention is just the shape of the animal cell. The animal cell is more circular, and you saw that when we saw your cheek cells, whereas the plant cell is more like rectangular. Okay, hopefully that helped. Like I said, the video will be on Moodle. You should have quite a bit of time left in class, so you're going to be asked to do page 24 in your textbooks, numbers 1 to 4, and you're going to do these questions in your notebook and be ready to show me next class. And also don't forget, next class you have the quiz on the microscope. If you finish the questions earlier, don't fool around, just go over the microscope parts and quiz yourself and get ready for Friday. And remember, we don't see each other Wednesday, so you need to remember that we have the quiz on Friday. Have a great day, and I'll see you Wednesday.